We're on.
Doing. Hello.
Hi. Well, this is a special vacation edition from Port Townsend. It's a beautiful day in July. And we're reading the Garuda Purana. We are at chapter 46.
Second Kanda.
Second Kanda of the Garuda Purana, and this is called Results of Activity. Garuda is speaking. Vishnu, here identified as Krishna, will respond. Okay. Garuda said, the different kinds of heavenly enjoyments, worldly pleasures, strength, nourishment, and valor men acquire by the power of merit. Now this is a sentence, right? So the different kinds of heavenly enjoyments, worldly pleasures, strength, nourishment, and valor. We're back-ish. We've come. Okay, okay. Men acquire by the power of merit. So that's the sentence. It didn't sound very sentence-like the first time I read it. All these happen to meritorious persons here or there. It is true, definitely true. The Lord's statement cannot be otherwise. This is Garuda. So this is the Vahana, the mount of Vishnu, speaking to Vishnu, here identified as Krishna in that avatar. Virtue triumphs, not evil. Truth triumphs, not falsehood. Forgiveness wins, not anger. Vishnu conquers not the Asuras.
How does that happen?
I don't know. Let's read on. I have understood this truth, that everything auspicious results from merit. When our merit is at the peak, we are devoted to Lord Krishna. There is a query. What is that action by which one takes sinful births? How does one become a victim of hell? O Lord of deities, please tell me briefly what I desire to know. How and what are the forms taken by him? So there's some questions in this. Lord Krishna said, O Tarkya, men indulge in activities which result in meritorious or inauspicious fruits. O Kashyapa, now listen how men derive traits from their particular activities. Two epithets of Garuda, Tarkya and Kashyapa. 8. The preceptor guides the seeker. The king chastens the wicked. Yama regulates and rectifies the person of secret sins. When the expiatory and deterrent tortures in hell cease, the living beings are born again in human form with the characteristic traits of their sins. O foremost among birds, I shall tell you what these signs are.
I think you're hearing possibly a plane overhead.
No, we're hearing that boat over there. It's right behind you. It's a gigantic...
right.
Yeah, it's like the whale watching boat or something.
All right. Very good.
All right. It's okay. They can hear us better than that. Okay. So did you get that?
Yeah. Yeah, he's telling us what the signs
You're going to be born in human form with the characteristic traits of their sins, O foremost among birds. I shall tell you what these signs are. Having suffered and crossed tortures in hell, they return to the world of mortals marked with the characteristic signs. Go on. If a person has been guilty of falsehood in speech, he becomes a stammerer. Oh God, not this. A teller of lies or dumb, the Brahmin slayer is born compulsive or leprous, the wine addict becomes black-toothed. So, you know, if you were bad in your last life, you suffer in this life according to what you were doing in your last life.
Right.
But, you know, that's
they're sort of giving you a reverse divination so that you can tell what your issues were last time. I don't know. It's blaming the victim to some extent.
It's blaming the victim, but it's blaming them in their last life. So the victim can blame the victim. It's like, God, I was such a jerk back then. Why did I have to be, you know, I mean, that's supposed to be, I think, the lesson. You can't do anything about it, but on the other hand, you know, it's not quite the same as blaming.
Well,
I don't know.
I see it as a way of explaining away why God would do this to you, or something like that. You know, it's like...
What value is there in this?
Maybe attitudinal, if any. It just changes your relationship to it, because all of a sudden you realize that this issue was something that you've had for a while. It's a really deep issue for you. Think that way.
I'm thinking it in terms also of visualization as a healing technique. And so if you look at Louise Hay, for example, she says if you have this condition, it's you need to, it's because you're doing this, or you need to remedy it by doing this inverse thing.
Right.
But it's dealing with this life, and
Sure.
And she's blaming the victim too, in a sense. It's how you're, you could look at it that way. It's how you're dealing with your issues by turning them into physical pain kind of stuff.
And Sarno certainly explores
Robert
that.
Sarno in his healing back pain. We just ramble on. Having suffered and having suffered and crossed tortures in hell, they return to the world marked with the characteristics. Okay, we did all that. The thief of gold becomes bad-nailed. Bad fingernails. You stole gold. The defiler of the preceptor's bed becomes ugly-skinned. He who associates with sinners is born in a low family. He who takes meals at another's house without prior invitation is born a crow. A Brahmin who performs a sacrifice for low castes is born a village pig. Now that's one. This is a critical analysis of the Puranas that we're doing here, and I'd have to criticize that because that's like if you're a Brahmin and you do a sacrifice for a low caste person, it's like
Down you go.
if you need, let us.
If we think of this as snakes and ladders, this is a warning about where the snakes are.
He who performs many such sacrifices is born as an ass. Worse than a village pig, an ass. He who eats unscrupulously becomes a tiger in wilderness. You might want to do that.
Yeah.
He who scolds others without a cause becomes a cat. He who burns dry wood is born a glowworm. He who burns dry wood, is that a sin of some sort?
Must be.
What's the idea there? You're wasting the wood or something like that, maybe because it burns up fast and you need to dampen it, or
I don't know the
I don't
logic,
know.
but it's interesting.
Yeah. 16. He who imparts knowledge to the undeserving becomes a bull. Who is undeserving of knowledge?
Yeah.
He who offers, and there's a footnote there, compare a Shruti text quoted by Yaksha in his Niruttam, a treatise on etymology. Vidyaha vai brahmanam ajagama gopaya mam shevadhishteham asmi asuya yarnjave yataya nama bruya viryavati yathasyam. And instead of writing this in Devanagari, it's written out in Roman, which is somehow even harder to read and pronounce correctly. Wait. Don't point until you see it. It's up here. Just looking at your fingertip. All right, that's imparts knowledge undeserving, becomes a bull. Also, bull, I don't know.
One of Shiva's special guys.
I guess the idea is you don't really want to be born as a non-human because as a non-human, you can't move from that to the next square, which is liberation, the possible best next square in the Snakes and Ladders understanding of the universe. So you don't want to be a bull, you don't want to be a tiger. He who offers stale food to a Brahmin becomes a hunchback. He who is malicious to others is born blind. He who steals a book is born similarly. He who steals books is born blind.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hello.
Hi. Okay. He who habitually steals fruit is born a monkey, or alternatively suffers from goiter. Monkey or goiter, you're stealing fruit. He who takes food offered, there must have been more than one tradition of that, and often what these texts are doing is they're compiling the wisdom of that people are passing around in the ancient world. And this is why this is, as weird as it is, all this reading we do of strange statements. It's a window into a world that you would have no access to otherwise. So, think about that.
I'm grateful.
All right. He who takes food offered unwillingly becomes impotent. He who is averse to thinking oneself is born a stupid traitor. He who is averse to thinking on self, like meditating on the self, the nature of the self, something like that, having some high-born idea rather than just being, is born a stupid traitor, but as in a merchant. He who is ignorant of the truth of virtue falls in a deep ocean. Literal or figurative, I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
He who steals gold is born an alligator. Hey, we had a gold theft become bad nailed before. There's more than one opinion in the same text.
Mm-hmm.
He who is ignorant of the truth of virtue falls in a deep ocean. He who steals gold is born an alligator. He who poisons others becomes a snake. Poisons others. Maybe you were a snake. O bird. He who has sexual intercourse with an ascetic lady assumes a ghostly form, becomes a ghost. He who steals water becomes a chataka. Footnote. Chataka, a bird which is supposed to live only on raindrops. He who steals grams becomes a mouse, and grams are lentils of various sorts. He who rapes an immature girl becomes a serpent. He who covets his preceptor's wife becomes a chameleon. Maybe in order to, He who interferes with the flow of water becomes a fish. He who sells the forbidden articles becomes deformed in the eye. He who censures others is born of defiled womb. He who deceives a woman becomes an owl.
A special creature of Lakshmi. They've been going through the different creatures, like the crocodile fights Vishnu at one point, and there's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, if Lakshmi has a vahana, it is the owl. It's her vehicle, although it's not played up as much as Shiva's bull and Vishnu's Garuda. However, I was going to say something else, I forgot.
23 usually.
Oh yeah, owl. I was going to say also, we have the wise old owl notion in the West, but in Indian tradition, the owl is actually seen as not a very bright animal, for whatever reason. If you say, ye ulu kahika, I remember, it's like an expression in Hindi. Where's this owl from? It's not
nice
it doesn't look about owls. Okay, 23. I periodically tell you the number. I don't try to tell you the number all the time, but just to sort of, if you want to find this stuff, it'll give you some sense of where we are. He who takes food on the fast day after a relative's death becomes a dog. Very important throughout this entire Purana is when you eat, what you do after the death of somebody, and all of the aspects of that.
And dogs would be
not so good.
A Dattatreya.
Dogs could be associated with Dattatreya, yeah. So it's really an aspect of the Trimurti. He who does not pay the promised sum to a Brahmin becomes a jackal. He who kills a serpent becomes a boar. He who slanders Brahmins becomes a tortoise. He who subsists on the worship of idols becomes a Chandala.
You can see how these might stack up on each other and you become something very strange.
So after that, it has a footnote. He who subsists on the worship of idols becomes a Chandala. It says, the statement would seem absurd, but priesthood and idol worship have often been the target of criticism from very, very early time. After all this time, he's decided this one seems absurd. Mind you, we revere the text. It's just that we're like this. They have become the object of derision, even in modern age, at the hands of social reformists like the Arya Samaj, a sect which is very popular in northern India nowadays, at least at the time of this writing. Compare an oft-quoted verse of the Panchatantra, Narakaya matisto chet parohityam samachara, varsham yavat kimanyena matachinta dina trayam. Remember that. The seller of forbidden fruits becomes an indigent. He who keeps a Shudra woman as a concubine becomes a bull. He who kicks the sacred fire becomes a cat. He who eats another's meat becomes a patient. He who indulges in sex at the prohibited time becomes a eunuch. A stealer of scents becomes a foul smeller. A stealer of other goods becomes a swallow. O Lord of birds, these and other signs brought about by their actions are seen in men and others. Persons who commit such sins fall into hell and are reborn in different species of animals. After passing through these births, men and women are reborn in human form when their merit and demerit are equalized. When men and women unite in sexual act, and both the semen and the blood are mixed, the child born will be nourished with all the elements in proper proportion. 31. The receptivity, the inducement, misery, desire, death, effort, feature, complexion, love, hatred, birth, death. These are attributed to the beginningless soul that seeks for its beginning by entering the womb. Bound by its own action, the soul takes up body after body and undergoes series of births. This is what I have told you already. This is how the circle whirls in the four species of being. Thus, O Garuda, do the birth and death of living beings rotate. The rise in the course is due to virtue, and the fall is due to evil.
And I think this is a reference directly to Vishnu being a spiral.
O bird, all these take place in all castes according to their previous actions. In deityhood or manhood, humanhood, the acts of benevolence and indulgence recur due to their previous karman, action. A son of Vinita, whatever is observed is the fruit of action. O son of Vinita, another epithet for Garuda, whatever is observed is the fruit of action. If a person indulges habitually in evil actions due to passion, it is certain that he will fall into a terrible hell from which there is no escape. And you didn't do any notes this time.
Well, I'll do them later.
you can listen to this and do the notes. So.
But I think it's very interesting, this whole reverse engineering of why you're the way you are in this life, indicating what your issues were last time.
But it also surrounds you with all of these species. You can look at and go, I know what you did.
What you did. Or I know what you might have done.
Talking to the animals. There's a crow over there right now looking at us scornfully. Like,
yeah, like, you think that's where my people are from. All right.
You know it's true. Maybe animals have that wisdom that they know it's true. They're going, oh crap.
They know what's going on in ways we don't, but that doesn't mean there's any truth involved.
Right.
Other than their truth and our truth. But,
well,
truth is such a relative problem. This is one of the things they were trying to talk about, was what the truth rather than fiction. But what they didn't talk about much was how you decide which is which. You know, it's like
that's what they're here to tell you.
It's like the choice between vice and virtue is clear, right? Everybody wants to go to virtue, but what is vice and what is virtue? This becomes the question.
And vice versa.
Because, just because something feels good doesn't make it necessarily bad. And just because something is sexual doesn't make it bad. You wouldn't be around without it. So
however, leave your preceptor's wife alone. The ancients have spoken. I mean,
something like that.
Something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to turn this off.
All right.
We've got to go back to our vacation here.